Hello, everyone. Welcome to the preview show delivered by FedEx Racing. I'm Alan Cavana. Joining me, as always, Marty Snyder from TNT. How you doing?
I wish something was going on this week.
Yeah, nothing.
Really nothing to talk about, is there?
Nothing to talk about. Hey, yeah, before we can look forward to Sunday night, we have to look back to last Saturday and Monday and everything that happened. Big penalties coming down from NASCAR to Michael Waltrip Racing, namely a big fine, $300,000 for the total for the organization. All three cars fined 50 championship points. And in short, the biggest of it all, Martin Truex Jr. penalized enough that he is now out of the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, and Ryan Newman is in. A lot to take in after what happened in those final few laps. What are your thoughts on all this, Marty?
A lot to take in for sure. You know, first of all, I have to say I applaud NASCAR. They did a great job just by doing any sort of penalty at all. I was on TV shows, radio shows, on Twitter on Monday, and I said, no way they do anything, because they've really not been big in the past at revisionist history. They've not been one to go back and kind of take away things if they didn't have to. And so I really didn't think they would do anything. So I commend them for doing something in the first place, because all the evidence at this point clearly is overwhelming that it was intentional Clint Bowyer's spin, and what they did with Brian Vickers was very intentional as well. But I do think they did not go far enough. In my opinion, the guy who was the most innocent in this whole process, Martin Truex Jr., is the guy who paid the biggest penalty. After the race, everybody asked him about Bowyer's spin. He had no idea what everybody was talking about. And then Bowyer, the guy who's the most guilty in this whole process, pays no penalty at all. Once they're reseated, he basically is back to where he would have been anyway, so the 50 points don't matter to him at all. So if I could change one thing about this whole process, I would really like to see Bowyer's points taken away after the seating, taking him therefore pretty much out of the championship chase. That to me is the only thing that seems fair in this whole process.
We talked to NASCAR President Mike Helton Monday night, and he said this was a team approach penalty. He didn't want to go after the individual drivers, specifically, I think, because of coming down from Ty Norris, the general manager and vice president up at MWR. You don't agree with that approach?
Well, I agree with that approach to some extent, but I think MWR as a whole should have been held more accountable. I don't understand why Michael Waltrip is not held accountable in this situation. You had Joe Gibbs a couple of months ago when there was an engine penalty in one car. He had his license taken away for 6 weeks. Now, that was overturned after they appealed it. Michael Waltrip, with all three cars in his organization involved in this, he's not penalized at all. But I do agree. I understand NASCAR's point in taking away Bowyer's points. I'm just saying take him away after the seating, because I think he needed to be punished a little stronger than he was punished. A couple of guys did this a few years ago in Formula One. They're banned for life today. I don't know if NASCAR needed to go that far, but I think they needed to make a little bit of a stronger statement than they did. But they did a great job just doing something in the first place. I certainly applaud NASCAR for taking that step.
And all this just increases the spotlight that's already on the playoff, which starts on Sunday. We're headed to Chicago, which means we have a whole new points lineup. Take a look. After Richmond, it all resets. So Matt Kenseth is your new points leader with his 5 regular season wins. Jimmy Johnson now in the unfamiliar spot of second. Regular season point leader Carl Edwards is down to 5th. We go to the next page. Joey Logano makes his first chase and vaults right over drivers like Clint Bowyer and Dale Earnhardt Jr. And of course, Casey Kane and now Ryan Newman are your wild card spot holders. Now, Marty, of course, these standings likely won't stay that way for the next 10 weeks.
No, they won't stay that way for very long.
So, I mean, what's your initial assessment? We know how they're lined up now. Who's your title contender?
I've thought a lot about this, and I really think, in my opinion, everyone's going to say it's either going to be Jimmy Johnson or Matt Kenseth as their favorite. For me, Matt Kenseth is my favorite to win the 2013 championship for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think they're very strong at the mile-and-a-half tracks. Clearly, half of the chase tracks are mile-and-a-half race tracks. I do think there's a couple of tracks in there for Kenseth that are not that good. And actually, I think Jimmy Johnson has less bad racetracks in the chase than Matt Kenseth does. When I analyze it, Alan, the one thing I go back to is I sit there and I say, okay, Jimmy Johnson has had a lot of races this year where he's led a lot of laps. You look at Kentucky, you look at Michigan, you look at Dover, all these races where he's led a lot of laps, and they haven't closed. They haven't been able to close the deal. And Matt Kenseth has had a lot of races this year where he's not led a lot of laps, and maybe they've had a 9th place car, but they finished 3rd with it. They've done a great job of being a championship type team, taking those races where maybe they had a 5th or 4th place car and winning with it, or finishing 2nd with it, doing the things that you need to win a championship much more this year than Jimmy Johnson and his team have. If that continues for the final 10 races, Matt Kenseth will be your champion.
First race of the playoff in Chicago. Brad Keselowski won this race last year, went on to win the championship. So it's important to get off to a good start, as he showed all of us. So Who's going to win this weekend?
I'm going to go with Casey Kane this
Ew.
weekend. You know, why not? He's my dark horse pick, but I do think when it comes to these mile-and-a-half racetracks, they're so strong, as we just mentioned a moment ago. You look at the Kansas race earlier this year, racetrack very similar to Chicago. I think Casey was obviously very good there. He finished second to Matt Kenseth. So I think Casey Kane is going to come out of the gate being very strong, and they've had all these stretches of races where they kept finishing second. I think one of these days, by the statistics if nothing else, they've got to put it together and get a win. I predict it to be this weekend for Casey Kane.
And I'm picking Casey Kane's nemesis for all the reasons you just laid out. Why he's going to win the championship. Matt Kenseth is going to win this weekend because he has to get that good start. He has to set that precedent for the rest of the chase. And like you said, I mean, you laid out the argument. He's been great at the mile-and-a-half.
Yeah.
He can close out the races, and he always seems to beat Casey Kane. And that's why Matt Kenseth is going to win this first race in Chicago. Marty, it's going to be a good chase.
Well, and I think that's the big thing for me, Alan, is I'm ready to get the racing started once again so we can quit talking about all this nonsense that happened at Richmond. And let's not forget, the racing product itself has been fantastic lately. And I think that's what folks can look forward to in the final 10 races. So, yeah, I'm excited to get Chicago going, man.
Yeah, the best of the best go at it starting this weekend. So, for Marty Snyder, I'm Alan Cavana. Thank you for joining us for the preview show delivered by FedEx Racing. Have a great weekend, everyone.